Hello first years, welcome to Content Analysis Mark Scheme. Let's have a look at the first question, or the first part of the first question, because there's only one question, isn't there? So immediately the first thing I would like you to do is check whether you have contextualised. If you haven't contextualised, you don't get any marks, which I know is really frustrating, but we keep hammering it home, keep practicing it. Have you linked it back to the stimulus? So have you referenced diaries, mother's writings, reports, children, daycare, anything like that? Without mentioning any of that, if it's just a generic list, then you don't have any marks, okay? So the first step that you would mention, you wouldn't mention sampling because the sampling process has already been done for you. If you've mentioned it but then gone on to mention other things, it's fine. You don't lose any marks, but you just don't gain any for the sampling. So the first thing you would mention is that you create a checklist. You might have mentioned familiarising yourself with the diaries, and you could do that as well. But you create a checklist of the categories. Give yourself a mark if you've given examples of the behaviours, so aggression, crying, whatever it might be. So you've mentioned the categories, you said you'd create them, you've given specific examples. The next thing you would do is say that you read through the diaries, the mother's writing or the reports, and that is absolutely vital, hence why it's bolded and underlined, that you would go through the diaries. You must contextualise it. And you would count the behaviours, tally the behaviours, and then you would compare the before and the after. Okay, so you must mention at least 4 of those 5 things to be able to get the full marks. Every one of them you've mentioned, give yourself a tick. Yeah, exactly. No marks for sampling because it's already been selected for you. The sample has already been selected for you. Okay. The second section of the question, the possible limitations. You only need one limitation, I think. Let me just check the question. Yeah, absolutely. You only need one limitation. However, if you've mentioned more, it says at least one, then that's absolutely fine. They must be limitations, they must be weaknesses. If you've written a strength, no marks. Also, you must have used the P structure. It's used the word limitation, so you'd say a weakness is, for example, this is a weakness because. Okay, so you need that level of detail. So you could have 2, that's fine. You can get marks for any ones that you use the P structure. You can get as many marks as you need to until you've got full marks. But you could still potentially get full marks with 1 if you've used the P structure in enough detail. These are some of the examples. You could have had other example evaluation points from content analysis, but the key thing that I'd want you to check is you've used the P structure. So do you have a sentence, a weakness of content analysis is, then have you contextualised it? For example, referenced it back to mothers, referenced it back to babies, talked about the characteristics, explained demand the categories, explained demand characteristics, talked about the sample, whatever it might be. Have you been really, really specific, and have you linked your example back to the stimulus? And then you would have, this is a weakness because, and you would explain the weakness. And chances are, not definitely, not absolutely, but chances are you would use the term validity in there somewhere. It might be cause and effect. If it was the sample, it would be population validity, whatever it might be. So any limitation is accepted, and I would say for every bit of the P structure you use, you get a mark. And that's it. Okay, so every time said this is a strength is, a weakness is, for example, this is a strength because, that would get you 3 marks. Okay, brilliant. Don't forget to include the feedback, so not only do you mark it, but you also put the feedback on. If you didn't get full marks, why did you not get full marks?